So let's jump into, I didn't even do this part in the beginning, totally blew it. Our first part, fishing, is there's peacock bass in Florida, dude.
Hells yeah, there is.
And our second half, the random take, is going to be Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo Switch Online is getting some big old updates. If you're into old school games, and we know you are if you're listening to this podcast. So we'll get
Yeah.
into that. First of all, the fishing. Here we go. Peacock bass in Florida, Tim. I was hoping to catch you off your feet again. Or whatever the fuck I fucked up in the beginning.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was off your balance.
Yeah, I was trying to catch you off your balance again, but you just acknowledged, you're just like, yeah, dude, there's totally
Yes, there
peacock bass in
is.
Florida. And I'm like, fuck.
Yep.
That's what I did inside. I was told, I just,
Shit.
damn it. Of course you know that though.
I know that
But-
they're stocked there because that's where I was like, I've always wanted to catch peacock bass. I don't remember if that's one that we ended up doing on the like dream fishing episode, but it's totally one. Because from my understanding, they're like regular bass, but like just way more aggressive. Like,
Oh,
if you're
okay.
fishing top water, that thing is coming out to just smash that shit. Like, it's not like it's necessarily hungry. It's like it's angry. Like, you came to the
Like a
wrong
mean
spot,
one?
boy. We don't take kindly to your kind around
don't-
here. Just smash that shit on the surface. Like,
Yes, dude. I I didn't expect the South Park reference, so I'm just like laughing a little bit extra hard at that because just how much we already did South Park. But the point that I'm trying to make is like I didn't find that they were necessarily that aggressive like that, but
what
the one
videos
big
that
thing.
I've seen,
Oh, go ahead.
the videos that I've seen, the top water strikes are just like vicious. Like they're walking the dog. So you know that's like they call them like a walking bait. It's like you pop the rod tip and the bait literally darts back and forth. It goes.
It goes left, right,
Yep,
right, in really jagged, hard edge lines, like a zigzag line almost.
Yeah, well, almost back and forth, almost straight back and forth. You just kind of like a slack line, and when you pop it, it completely turns directions and then goes back the other way. So it just goes back and forth and back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah, and then like a head-in spook, or they use the Zara spook head-in. Oh, dude, I just got a head-in lure. I'm so pumped about it. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Completely sidetracked about that. I didn't tell you about it. I got 8 old school lures at a swap meet. When we went to a car show, I got 8 old school lures.
No way, dude.
$40 on 8 lures. But I got
$40 on 8 old school lures.
Yeah, dude. One's a top
Hell
water.
Yeah, dude.
One's a top water that has 2 singular hooks that are like screwed into the body. I've never seen the top water bait like that. It's like an old school frog. It's the weirdest looking shit.
Nice.
It's nothing like the new steel stuff. Sorry, it's completely sidetracked. I forgot to tell you about it. Super pumped on these old lures.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I love old lures, new lures. Just
I know.
Fucking lure fanatic, man.
You got to take pictures of those and get them up on fucking Instagram.
It's like
on Instagram,
it's like the old
TV.
Yeah, dude. It's like the old school cars, man. Just get excited.
Right.
If you tuned in last week, you knew about that too, but.
Yeah, because you got excited about an old car in real time on the podcast. It was the best, dude.
I didn't know what I knew. I saw something cool, and I learned exactly how cool it was on the podcast
in real time on the podcast.
Oh,
that's awesome. So yeah, you're this bait that you were talking about. It was like, what was that?
Oh yeah, a head-in. Heddon. There's a spook. This one would have been a super spook. Or something like that, because the super spook's bigger. I think it's like 5 3/4 inch or like 6 inches, like relatively long bait, and it's just walking back and forth, and you see that peacock bass like there's a fucking wake because he's just underneath the water. You can see it. Fish. You could see it coming at the bait, and then just like bam, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, that's what I want. Yes, like where you can see it, like the excitement of like something's about to smash this shit, and then boom! Oh yes, I want that.
Oh my god, dude! That I honestly don't think it was episode 18 that we did our dream fish, and I don't remember talking about the peacock bass because otherwise I don't. When I was doing research for this podcast, I don't think I would have thought that I could catch you off guard because we've been friends for so long. I knew that you liked the peacock bass. Like I knew that you were totally into it. You were just like, "Have you seen the
Yeah,
color of
dude.
this bass? Have you
Yeah,
like
the
you've
coloring
explained
is
it to
dope
me
too.
before?"
Yeah.
Yeah, can you explain it? Like I have one in the dock, and I don't know if you have the dock open, but like, can you
It's
sort of because what also I want to clarify quickly, we're talking about a butterfly peacock bass. I guess there are other ones. It has a
okay.
scientific name. It's the here we go. Scientifically, it's a Cichilla
Cichlid,
ocellaris. Cichlid?
I
Oh
think.
no, that comes up later.
Okay.
C- cic- yeah, so it's like a Cichilla ocellaris. Oh, that's probably a
Cichlid.
Y. Osiris,
I think
because of the double L, probably
the
mostly in
problem
those.
yeah, the problem is like all that scientific shit is a dead language. Nobody uses Latin anymore, and that's what it all
Right.
is.
So let me just say, Brazilian peacock bass or the Brazilian tucane. I looked that one up, and that is what we're talking about. There are different kinds, but
Okay.
so we're talking about a peacock bass, a butterfly peacock bass, or the Brazilian tucane. Tu tucanare.
Tucanare.
Yep.
I like the way that sounds.
Tucanare. Yep.
Maybe that's not Latin then.
No. Let
So
me redo that. The Sicilla, whatever I was trying to pronounce, that
yeah,
is the scientific name. So
that one
common
probably
speak is
is.
they're a butterfly peacock bass up here.
Yeah.
And then where they come from, which we'll just get into here, is they're in the larger rivers, more stagnant water in South America. That's where this bass originates from, like in the Amazon or
Right.
the uh, Orinoco River. That's where they come from. And so down there, it's basically called the Brazilian tucanade. Tu-
Okay.
tucanade. Tucanade.
Tucanare.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. So
Tucanare.
that is what the fish. That's the specific fish because there are different kinds of peacock bass that they call peacock bass.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not.
So
They all look pretty close to the same. I guess I have seen some that have a little bit different coloring, so that makes
right,
sense. But as far
yeah,
as the coloring goes, they have a dot on their tail,
like
and
an eye, like a fake eye, right?
yeah, yeah, because
That's
it's
what
got
I thought of it
yeah,
right
it's
away. I
not
was like,
it's not like one color. It's one color in the middle. I forget what it is, but there's like black and then like
it's black right in the dead
some
center.
yellow. Yeah, it's like black and some yellow and some other stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're basically like uh, any of the fishermen listening probably know what a peacock bass is, but if you don't, like any of the lures out there that are fire tiger, I fire ti- that was so weird sounding. Like, what did I just get possessed by the like Street Fighter guy? Just that fire tiger,
Fire tiger.
fire tiger. I said it like the yoga dude though. The fire tiger, he knows how
Right.
to use yoga flame.
Yoga flame.
Yoga flame. Anyways, they're like they have like banding, like the black, like I don't know how many, but
Yeah, it
it's
varies
like it's
because
like a
of the
perch.
way that they're.
Well, I learned too, like apparently like the longer they get, I don't know if it's the same with peacock bass, but perch. I just saw a picture the other day where
Oh,
somebody's like 7 lines or like 13 bands. Has anybody ever beat that before? And they're like, this was a
really?
big fish. And I'm like, oh, never thought about that before. I guess I just kind of
Right.
figured like when you got bigger, the lines just got bigger and the spacing got bigger. Like you didn't
Right.
actually gain more lines, but
Oh shit.
whatever. But yeah, so it's got like dark defined lines, and then it's like
Yep.
darker green on the top,
Yep.
but then it's like a bright ass orange on the stomach.
so much orange and yellow on the underside. It's
Yes.
absolutely crazy. Like the fins, the tip fins are super orange.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they're like an orange. You're just like, how does that exist in nature almost?
Right. But the other thing I thought too, like the first time I ever thought like this is the craziest thing. Like look at how bright orange that is.
Yeah,
That's so crazy. And then I thought about it and I'm like, oh wait, we have pumpkin seed sunfish here. Like
sure.
we have bright orange stomach
That's
fish
a good
too.
point.
So I'm
Really
like,
good point.
yeah, but that peacock bass like trumps pumpkin seed, but pumpkin seed's
For
definitely
sure.
got to be the coolest color fish we have.
Yeah, up here for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see it, you're almost just like, is that tide orange? I mean, holy shit.
Right, dude, it's so bright. And like you said
It's
with the
so
yellow,
bright.
it's not just orange. And
Right, because when you
it's like a
pair it
deep
next to
dark.
that yellow,
Right, plus it's like a deep dark green. Like their bodies are
hmm
like a dark green
which
and
would
it
make
kind
you
of
go
fades
like,
into a
that's a
light green.
bass.
Yes.
Like
And it
that
like
deep
fade.
dark back that they have, you just go, yeah, it's a bass. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
related. They're not related to bass. They're not bass.
No,
But
I knew they were weird because they have like they get odd looking. The real big ones, a lot of them get like a big fucking knot on their head too. Looks like
right.
somebody like something out of a cartoon. Like where
Like
they
they got bonked on the head and it
yeah,
just came
fucking
growing
anvil
out.
hit them.
Right, right. But yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing is like you gotta, yeah, of course it's a bass. It definitely has the characteristics of a bass, like you said. That dark green back is definitely characteristics of our small and more our largemouth. And then that,
Right.
but it just gets into that color, and that color is so crazy, man. It just like,
Yeah.
so what did you say again when I was trying to, okay, so I was trying to pronounce the like Latin scientific version, right? Cichlids, is
Yeah.
that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Cichlid.
technically what they are. That's not a bass. Like bass are not cichlids.
See,
But
that's
that's
the
what this
thing.
thing
Like,
is.
see, that's the thing where like it sounds like close enough. So I think that's probably why I went to that because like
Right.
you said it and then they go to something that's close because that's how the other stuff does it too. Like
Sure.
a muskie, the Latin name is like Esox musculunge or some shit like that, but we just call it a
Oh,
muskie.
so you call it a muskie for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
that
like
makes total sense.
and it might not even be like musculunge. It might be Esox something else. And then pike are the same way.
Okay.
Where they're like e-socks and then some other fucking word, but everybody just calls them pike. So,
But it's almost like the name is tucked in Latin somewhere, so you just pull out the like easy thing to pronounce.
or it's like close to it, and then somebody just goes with something like slightly off, like that cichlid thing. Like you didn't say cichlid, but I said cichlid because
Right.
you said like a ch, and I know cichlid spelt weird.
Right. Yep.
So
Good point. Did do you because cichlids are mostly saltwater fish? Am I wrong there? I didn't do more research, but like I saw
I
a picture of one
no,
and I
I
was like,
think
holy shit.
I
I think
mean
those
maybe I know that they're like I think those are some of the coolest ones that you can get in the freshwater. Like if you go to like I
Oh,
remember
there we
when I
go.
was more into fish, like having them at my house.
Yeah.
When you go to PetSmart, I believe they
Yep.
don't have anything saltwater, and you could get
Oh, okay.
cichlids there. Those were like the coolest fish that you could get at PetSmart. You know where? Well, I guess it's
Mm-hmm.
all um, subjective. You know whatever you're into, but they have like your run of the mill fish where they all look like something you could catch out of the water. You know where
Right.
like I always wanted shit that looked cool, bright colors. You know, and that you
Yep.
got to go to Petco for.
Oh.
But Petco, we can never go in because they can't keep a hold on their fucking crickets. And my wife doesn't like bugs, and there's crickets crawling on the
Just
floor
hopping
for
around.
whatever reason. They're just like, that's what we feed the lizards. And like, yeah, why can't you
But
keep a
how come I'm
fucking.
crunching them on my way to the
Yeah, why
fish?
the fuck are they all over the floor?
So yes, that was exactly why I wanted to bring that up. I figured you would have some insight on that because I know that you've had pet fish before, and I was just like, "That's a cool looking aquarium fish." I don't think you could keep a peacock bass in an aquarium. It's just like that'd
Right.
be a weird fish to have in an aquarium. And also, I thought they were saltwater, which I think you're pretty sure they're freshwater. Which, yeah, these
I
peacock
think
bass are
so.
totally freshwater fish.
Yeah.
Like they do not survive in the salt, and so them being in Florida, they have a very they have a cutoff, right? Because of all the estuaries down there in Florida.
Yeah.
They have like a very clean line where they're just like, yeah, they can't go past that.
Right. Yeah, because I think the cichlids are from Africa. I think most of those are
Oh,
African.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So to get back to the butterfly peacock is freshwater. The crazy thing when I was looking around here on bassingfl.com is they're in like the Miami-Dade area. So like they're super far south. They're other way. They are further north. They do go further north. Like I saw on another site when I was just poking around, like they go up to Naples. And if you don't know where Naples is, it's like Gulf Coast, sort of South Central.
Okay.
And it was still very clear, like they cannot live in saltwater. They're freshwater fish. And to hear that Miami was the spot they were, after learning that, was just like, oh, this is crazy. But you know why? If it gets below 60 degrees, done.
Oh, really?
The water gets below 60, dude. They cannot handle it. They're just done. That's it.
That makes sense. They just come from like a super hot area.
Right.
I remember like the first time I ever heard them, it must have expanded more, but I think the first time I ever heard them, it was like one canal. I saw it on a fishing show. It was the first time I ever saw it.
Sure.
And it was like this one canal where they're like, they stock peacock bass in this canal. And I'm like, no shit. So like that moment that you were hoping for, I had watching a fishing show where I'm like, I can go catch peacock bass here, because before that, all I knew was that I had to go to the Amazon, and I'm like, I would love to go catch them, but like what's the rest of the draw to go to the Amazon? Like, is that even safe? I don't.
Right, I know. So afraid of getting murdered by a bug in the Amazon.
Oh, dude, I don't like bugs, and they have big ones.
And murderous ones, like just bugs that will fuck you up. I mean, they may not kill you.
The problem, the real ones that I don't like are like the fat ass spiders that are poisonous. Like even like a tarantula, I wouldn't like, but when they're big, I can keep tabs on them. If I know that they're not poisonous, like I can see you. You know, when you're giant, like if I just punch you or whatever, like a bug the size of a bird, whatever, I don't give a shit. You're a bird now to me. It's the little guys that all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's on my shoulder and I'm dead. Like you just didn't know it was there. That's the part I don't like.
Just drops down creepily out of the trees.
Bam, you have no idea it's there until you feel the bite. You're just like, ow, shit. Oh no.
I'm about to die. Let's go.
Yeah. We got to go to the hospital now. This is going to suck. The part that, like, not to get off on a tangent here, but the part that I hate the most is like that most of their neurotoxins, it's not like an immediate fast death.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, a black widow just bit me. I'm about to have a full body cramp for hours.
Right.
This is going to suck really, really bad.
Right. Yeah. It's so horrible. Oh. So horrible. Anyways, okay, peacock bass. Butterfly peacock bass. So you knew about them before. So I just learned about them being in Florida a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I don't even know how I figured it out. I start getting fed stuff now because I'm looking at fishing stuff all the time. And I was just like, holy shit, that's crazy. So I had that moment that you saw at the fishing show, but I had it like just scrolling through the internet. And I knew though that they existed because we, like, again, when we started this topic, I knew that we had talked about them just sort of off, just, hey, this is a fish. It's crazy. Look at the fucking colors on it.
Right.
Like, it's nuts, right? It's in the Amazon. You just go. And when you say that, I just go, yeah, of course it's in the fucking Amazon. Like, everything's down there. Like, everything of every shade and color. It's no surprise. Right. And that's just where I thought they were. So then to learn that they were actually brought here.
Right.
So yeah, fishingfl.com is like, oh, they've been up here since like 84. And I was like, what? Oh shit.
84.
I had no idea.
Jesus, dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't that
like
crazy?
that's like before us.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I had no idea. I maybe it was like a small, a very small, like not well known area. I don't know.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I didn't get on there like there wasn't enough out there because actually a lot of this I had to go to Wikipedia for. Like the pronunciation, figuring out that like we're specifically talking about the butterfly peacock, the Brazilian references that they're in the Amazon and the Orinoco rivers. It was just like, how come I had to go to Amazon for this? This was so weird to have to like research this in almost like a background kind of way because that's what Wikipedia is, unless they
Yeah.
have references on there, which they did. So it all checks out pretty good. But it was just like, man, I couldn't find one good spot for this. And maybe I should have checked the FWC, which by the way is the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Committee. That's their DNR.
There's another one. And another one.
And another one. It's a very big name for what we just call the DNR. They call it FWC. Right. So maybe I should have just gone to their site directly, but hey, it was what it was, and it doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to make here is they're not invasive because we brought them up from the Amazon. Like, they were brought up here. Right. Because essentially they wanted them to control exotic fish species.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because they eat them.
Yeah. And they didn't explode. They didn't become carp like we've talked about many times. They didn't become an invasive species that like it was a successful relocation for all.
Yeah.
And from 84 to 2021, dude, 2021 to 84, I think this worked.
Nice. Yeah. Dude, that makes sense. And maybe
isn't that cool?
Maybe that's why we didn't hear about them much, where they like only had a couple. Mm-hmm. And eventually the numbers got to where they're like just a good fishing size.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do people harvest them?
Yeah. So the craziest thing about it is like it's fairly encouraged that you just sport fish them, which we've talked about with bass fishing, right? Just being sport fishing for, like there's just a sport to bass fishing. And so it's pretty encouraged down there to just sport fish these guys because they are doing what they were designed for and they're not flourishing or they're not over breeding and stuff like that. They're doing fine. So it's pretty encouraged, but I did read you can eat them. Oh yeah. People totally eat them and that they're good eaters and that
they are good eaters.
Yeah, and that the FWC has limits on them. So they're just like normal fish.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering if they were good eaters. Like I figured you could eat them, but like that's the same thing with bass. You can eat bass, but there's so many people that look at you like you're crazy when you're like, I've ate bass before. They're just like, oh, you've kept bass? Oh. It's like, yeah, dude, it's a fish. They're not that much different.
Right. I actually had never heard of anybody eating bass until I started fishing with you. So I had that. Yeah. Like it was built into me from childhood, which I don't know why. Because the first big fish I ever saw in my life was a smallmouth bass that my mom caught. And it must have been 3-4 pounds, something like nice size.
Yeah, that's a pretty good fish.
We threw it back. First fish my entire life we ever threw back. I was probably like 8 or 12.
Right. You're like, why? So much meat on that one.
Right. That's what I was thinking as a kid.
Right.
Because obviously other fish I threw back. Wasn't the first fish we ever threw back. It was the first good size fish we ever threw back.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, so it was crazy. But to hear that the FWC is like regulating these fish, they have size limits, they have possession limits and stuff like that. It was like,
yeah,
sweet, man. This is just a successful introduction. It was really, It was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And like I would now, knowing that they're good eaters, I'm definitely gonna eat one. Like anybody that,
Fuck yeah, dude.
yeah,
Fuck
anybody that's like, no, you shouldn't eat them. Like if it's allowed, if I can keep one, I'll keep one. I won't keep a
I'm
big
keeping
one.
one. Yep.
But we'll keep just a decent sized one, get a couple of fillets off and eat it. And that's the thing. And we've talked about this before, but like just with any fish, like the bass, like if you had it or you tried to cook it and it wasn't that great, and you tried to cook one fillet, even a small bass has a decent sized fillet and it's thick. They're thick, they're meaty. Cut them into small pieces, man.
Right.
So they cook evenly. That's how you do it with any meat. If you have a weird shape, like a big chicken breast, the small side cooks faster than the big side.
The worst.
But nobody thinks about that with fish for some reason. They're just like, I'll just deep fry the whole thing. And then they're like, yeah, the middle's kind of mushy. Probably because you didn't cook it all the way through.
Right. Yes. You're exactly true. That's the thing, is going back to, these aren't bass, but they're bass, man. You treat them like a bass. Like, you're still going to treat it like a bass. That's all you have to do in your head.
They got a mouth like a bass. They go at the same lures as a bass, like it's, they're called bass.
We call them bass.
We call them bass.
Yeah. And so the stuff that you've seen when it comes to them is essentially largemouth fishing, right? Am I wrong to say that?
Well, smallmouth, you fish the same way too. It's just like smallmouth are normally in like deeper, clear waters, where the peacock bass are in like from Africa, where I don't think
peacock
there's a
bass
single...
are from Brazil, Amazon.
Oh, from Brazil. Yeah, I was thinking of the cichlids.
You were thinking this. Yep, I know. That's why.
But have you ever seen clear water in any of those countries? Like, not trying to shit on them, but like it's a whole...
No, it's just because everything is flowing through that. Like,
that's
it's just the size of that river. You can't be clear. It's impossible.
Yeah. So you don't, like, you're not out there like finesse fishing. You got to use stuff that's going to get their attention because the water's super dingy.
Right. Yes. With that said, with the like fishing techniques said, they get they spawn from April to September, but they peak in May to June. What does that mean to you if we're trying to go to Florida and catch this sumbitch?
That's when they spawn?
They spawn from April to September. I was just like, Jesus
just
Christ.
The whole time?
That's all the time. Like, they take 3 months in the winter off. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
But like... they did say, this is Wikipedia, so take it for what it is. What'd you say?
I need a 3-month break from fucking... That's not how fish work anyways, but it's just funny.
It's a good joke.
I've been going at it from April through September. I just need a little break. I'm worn out here.
Worn out.
Is that another lure? You're in the wrong spot, boy.
Oh, that is exactly that's a real AFTV moment right there. Clip that shit out, because that's what I'm talking about. Is like, we don't expect you to think like the fish are actually fucking, right? But like, did that not just settle in your brain that they're only taking 3 months off? Yeah, probably did. 3 months isn't accurate, because September you got to go October, November, December, January, February, March, April. It's 5, 6.
If we're like, I know some other species are a little bit like that too, where they can just like spawn whenever, but now I definitely got to do some more research into this. Like, if we're doing another episode on different bass species, I really got to look into this, because I'm so curious to like how that works. Like, is it the same as like a largemouth? Like, the male's going to go make a spawning bed, and then he's just going to hope that a female like ends up like swimming through one of these random times, and then just goes, That's spawning bed over there. You ready? You want some eggs? I get you some eggs.
Like, is he just sitting there from April to September in the same spot, going like, ladies? He's just doing that.
Now I'm picturing from Workaholics, that big guy that one time they get up in the morning, he's just like, you boys want some eggs?
Y'all want some hot cheese and eggs?
You want some hot Jeez, there's just a female bass swims by the male on the bed. She just takes a moment, like, what? Hey, y'all want some hot cheese on that?
For 6 months, he's just got the same move going on.
Oh, that's a different fish right there. We got to figure it out.
So, yeah, but seriously, like about the catching thing, because you know a lot about largemouth and how they spawn, and like it seems that these peacock bass are behaving. And you know, when I was doing research, I don't have a specific location. A lot of this came from Wiki again, where I learned this part is like, yeah, you kind of fish them like you fish largemouth.
Yeah.
And so if their peak is in May and June, but they're really going for like 6 months of the year, like if we were to go fish this thing, what does that mean? I mean, knowing that you know largemouth.
Well, if they're like spawning in May and June, like then you would want to fish them kind of like how you fish the bass, where you know like they'll be on beds, so you're kind of. But that's tricky, man. That's tricky. Yeah. Maybe probably post spawn. I don't know, like a prop bait or something, where like you make it look like a sunfish that's kind of like on the surface, whatever their food sources, I guess. You would well, because a lot of times you try to make it looks like something going through their spawning bed, and then they don't want that to happen with a largemouth or whatever, so they'll come and like pick it up, and a lot of times they won't even eat it for food. They'll just pick it up and go drop it off. But
oh yeah, you've talked about that before.
But there's also
like
different
soft bite sort of thing, right?
Yeah, but there's also different kind of baits that you use because of the water temperature, where you're using like red stuff works a lot of times early, tighter vibration and stuff. So like the fact that they spawn in like way 6 warm, months well, I year. Guess like May though is kind of like when the other fish spawn, but you're talking about May in Florida.
Right.
So which like is like the water temperature
June up here or something, or so July up here.
Right. So the water temperature is way warmer. So I'm not sure. That's kind of throwing me off, because I know what you would fish for.
Very good.
The bass spawn, but that's because I know what lures would work best in that water temperature. But with hotter water temperatures, I don't know. It probably probably the same kind of stuff would work on the beds, but is that even how they do it? Do they do a spawning bed?
Right. No, that's a really good point. I didn't get into how they spawn and stuff like that, but you're doing what you do that makes you good at fishing, is you're picking apart all the little details, because I say fish them like you fish largemouth. And then you go, yeah, but I don't think it's that simple.
Right.
You're just like, hold on a second. I don't really think it's that easy, because there's no, from what I saw, it's just a size limit that the FWC is just putting a size limit on them, that they're open season. I could be wrong. I did not research that. So please, before you go out fishing in Florida for peacock bass, do the research on that. But you're doing what you do as a technician of a fisherman that you are. Sure. So it's very like, I don't know, man. It's just awesome to watch your brain work in real time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, it is just what you said. Like where it is, you just fish them like you fish them. But the part about like if you catch them spawning, because that's different. You know,
sure,
their attitudes are different. I'm assuming, and everything. So, like if you for the most part, if you went out and you're just like fishing a topwater bait, like when the fish are spawning, that's not gonna work very well for the most part.
Yeah.
But post spawn, when they want to feed and stuff, then that's a little bit different story. So yeah, definitely something to look into, because it brought up a lot of questions in my mind when you said that they spawned later in the year in warm water. It just makes you go, well, shit.
how how do I like what is it a threat to a peacock bass going, y'all want some hot cheese and eggs? Like,
right.
what's threatening to a fish that's in that mode?
Yeah. She gonna give him some hot cheese and eggs. Is that what you should fish with? Is hot cheese and eggs?
I don't know.
He's not gonna eat that though. It's not what he's trying to do.
Right.
Not trying to eat it.
So
I don't even want to say the weird thought I just had.
Yes. That's awesome. All right, I will override it then and get us back to the food. I'll get you back. I'll get it back into
we
it.
We had enough grossness from Steve-O.
Yeah, seriously. So I'll get back to eating the actual peacock bass because I'm with you, dude.
Yeah.
Like if we were ever go fish these things in Florida, we're keeping one, right? If we catch the right size, we're keeping one each. We're eating two.
Anything once. I mean, like,
yeah,
that's food, you know, not like, you gotta try shit to see what it's like. No,
here's a turd.
Here's a turd. I gotta give it a shot. No, anything that's food.
Yeah, for sure. And both in North and South America, these are very much an eater fish, right? Like down in the Amazon, they eat them. Up here,
makes sense.
Very edible. They're actually related in a way to tilapia. Tilapia's dope.
Yeah, tilapia is good.
Yeah. So I'm just like, when I read that, I was just like, oh yeah. And that was from floridamuseum.ufl.edu, which is University of Florida, but the Fish Museum.
The Fish Museum.
And yeah, it says related to tilapia. And I was like, man, I love them. And that was also where I found out that they were not invasive species. What they're actually categorized as non-indigenous. That's how you categorize a fish that has successfully been introduced to an ecosystem.
Sure.
Yeah.
And more like on purpose, right? Isn't invasive kind of like that thing came over and none of us wanted it to happen? Like it was like some carelessness.
Tim, you caught me. You caught me there. Because I'm it's kind of a hobby of mine to follow invasive species, as we've talked about with the carp and stuff like that. I need to get that definition now. So thank you. I'm actually going to write that down. I do not know technically, but from everything I've read, the answer to that is yes, 100%. You are correct that it got loose.
Right.
And overdid it.
Yeah. Because that's what they're always trying to stop at the boat ramps with, like the different weeds that grow out of control and the zebra mussels and shit. It's because nobody wants any of that stuff to come into your lake. And then some guy goes and drives in one of those lakes with it and then just goes to the next lake without cleaning his shit off.
Yep.
You're like, you're ruining all the lakes, you fucking idiot.
You fucking asshole. Right.
Except for like the zebra mussels do make the water super clear, and most of those lakes become like awesome smallmouth fisheries. So, but I know that
there's kind of like this balance.
Yeah, there's like this balance. Like it's not great. I know people don't like it, but at the same time, it ends up working out. And also, like milfoil is not awesome, and hydrilla is kind of the same thing, I think, down south. But then that gives really good habitat for the bass as well. So it's like, yeah, I get why you don't like it, but for fishing, it's not always super bad either. So,
well, we will have to dive into that for sure when it comes to like zebra mussels and stuff like that and what it's doing for bass fishing, because we talk a lot of bass fishing here.
And I'm sure there's bad too. I don't want people like jumping down our throats like, why would you even say that, you idiot?
Right. Thank you. Very good save there, Tim, because yes, you're making a really good point. I hope that one of the things that we've made clear here is invasive species not good. Generally speaking, we kind of hold that true.
Yeah, and I still don't want that shit in my lake. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just like, you know, when it happens, you're like, man,
I guess here's an upside.
It sucks that it happened, but glass half full is what I tried to say twice.
Right.
Screwed it up both times, and then
but it just came out as a bunch of mumbled words.
Rebooted, I guess.
And you know what? To wrap this up here with the butterfly peacock bass and invasive species is that's what they were brought up here to control, is those assholes that are just letting their saltwater fish go, their exotic fish go, because they're like, I don't know, I don't want this thing anymore, and just fucking dump it in a canal in Florida, and they were blowing up. And so I'm not saying that the FWC, because I didn't look that for, but somebody in Florida, there was a group of people that said, like, let's get that fucking peacock bass up here and see how it goes. And it worked. It took care of those fucking people's dickhead moves. So that's awesome.
Yes, that is awesome. Yeah. And you're totally right. That's 100% on how like most of that stuff happens with the fish like that, where somebody decides to have it as a pet. That's why the boa constrictors are like nuts down there, because they're just like, yeah, I want a snake. And you're like, oh shit, I didn't know it was going to get 12 foot long. You didn't?
And live for 30 years.
Yeah, you didn't? You ever been to the zoo? These things are fucking massive.
So you're telling me you did zero research and you just thought it'd be cool to have a reptile. What'd you do? Watch a WWF video from back in the day and you're like, Jake the snake's super dope. If I did that, I bet you the ladies would love me.
Yeah, I can't afford the albino one, but I'm still going to be pretty fucking sweet, man. And then you're just like, oh, geez, it ate my dog. I'm throwing it in the woods.
Right, like that's the option. That's the best idea after it eats a 12-pound animal.
Yeah, don't murder it. Just let it go off to murder more.
Throw it in its in a real world simulation of its natural habitat.
Right.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. It's like just disowning your murderous child. Don't turn him in. Just be like, did you kill another person, Jeff? God damn it. I can't have this in my house anymore. You go off into the real world and you kill out there. You stop bringing them into my house. You hear me? I don't know why I do a southern accent all the time.
I know. I told you. It doesn't matter. We've been down that road, man.
It's just fun. I don't know.
Yep. Let's wrap this shit up. Let's get to that random take. Let's switch over to video games. I don't know how we're going to switch to video games after this, but we'll fucking make it happen.
Florida.